Have you ever thought about the profound impact of the words you use in your daily life? And have you ever wondered when it is time to speak and when, on the other hand, it is time to remain silent? The words we use and the way we say them play a decisive role in our lives and the lives of others. Thanks to the Zen Story that you will hear shortly, you will discover that if you control your words, you will live in peace and find inner peace. So stay until the end of the video because you will have the list of 10 topics that it is better not to talk about if you want your life to pass in peace. In the meantime, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share the video. Thanks to these small gestures, you will help us produce new content every day for your spiritual growth. In a quiet Buddhist monastery, surrounded by an atmosphere of ancient wisdom and serenity, the elderly monk Ray gathered his disciples to talk about the power of words. "Dear disciples," he began, "today we will reflect on the wisdom behind speaking or remaining silent. Our inner peace and serenity, in fact, depend on the words we choose to pronounce and those that perhaps are better to retain." The monk continued his speech, teaching that one of the most valuable lessons of Buddhism is the art of not talking about things that are not fully understood. "Knowledge is like a flower that gradually blooms," said Rai. "Talking about it before it fully opens means sharing only a bud, depriving others, and above all, oneself, of the beauty of the full flower. Learning something," Rai continued, "requires time and reflection. Too often in today's fast-paced world, we are eager to quickly share our experiences and opinions. But Buddhism teaches us the virtue of patience. We wait until we fully understand things before we start talking. Sharing partial information is not wise as it could result in missing pieces of a puzzle, creating a distorted picture, generating misunderstandings and bad feelings." Rai, in a calm voice, continued to explain that patience in learning and sharing leads to greater sincerity. When we don't know something well, we shouldn't be afraid to say that we are still learning. This is a testament to honesty. And this honesty creates trust in others. Therefore, when we share something, let us do so with the awareness that our knowledge is authentic and complete. While the disciples listened with attention and admiration, the teacher went on to illustrate the difference between knowledge based on concrete experiences and knowledge that is derived from reading or listening. "True understanding," Rai stated, "often comes from our personal experiences. When we experience something firsthand, our understanding becomes deep and authentic. Therefore, when we share information, we do not offer only heard facts, but part of our history, our experience." During the lesson, Rai warned his disciples about another crucial aspect: moderation in speech. Buddhism teaches us to be aware of the words we use and how we express them. Kindness and compassion should be the basis of our language. Therefore, never speak ill of others and avoid constant gossip and complaints, since these actions not only harm others, but poison us internally. After opening the lesson with these premises, the monk Ri decided to list the 10 topics that should always be avoided in daily conversations to maintain inner peace and promote spiritual growth. There are issues in everyday life that, if avoided, can become the key to cultivating inner serenity and spiritual growth, he stated with conviction. Now we will delve into them so that from now on, thanks to this knowledge, you can be more aware of the words you use and shape your spiritual well-being and your emotional balance. The first issue is related to avoiding unnecessary criticism. Destructive criticism, Rai said, can be like a storm that devastates the garden of your inner peace. Ray explained to his disciples that they should avoid unnecessary criticism and focus on constructive criticism. Instead of constantly complaining about other people's behavior, we reflect on their actions and find positive ways to communicate. Not judging others was Rai's second lesson. Trial can be a heavy burden to carry, he said. Judging others is like dragging a chain that limits inner freedom. Let's avoid jumping to conclusions based on external appearances or on what we have heard someone say. Before we talk, let's try to understand how things really are. Rai's third lesson was to let go of the need to always be right. The constant need to be right can be a source of tension, he said. Leave aside this destructive need because the true treasure is in open-mindedness and personal growth. Instead of arguing that we are right at all costs, let's focus on opening constructive debates that help us find the truth together. The fourth thing you should do, the master continued, is to avoid complaining constantly. Continually complaining can be like a poison that destroys your own mind and that of others. In this sense, Ray advised us to avoid constantly expressing our dissatisfaction and complaints about others, focusing on what we have, practicing gratitude rather than what we lack, paves the way to inner peace, the monk said. As I already said, another important thing is to only talk about the topics that we really understand. Talking about topics that are not fully understood is like building sandcastles destined to fall apart. A monk at the monastery, he said, used to share unverified information about other monks, and this always generated bad feelings. So avoid doing it and you will take a step towards peace. The sixth central theme of the lesson was avoiding gossip. Gossip, Ray said, may seem like a gentle wind, but it can become a destructive hurricane. Avoid idle chit-chat and anchor your conversations with kind and constructive words. Do not do the same as those people who, by fueling harmful discussions, create discontent and misunderstandings, but focus on positive topics. The seventh lesson was do not hold grudges. Resentment is like a chain that binds us to the past, said the monk. Leave the wounds of the past behind to embrace the present, and with it inner peace. When you receive insults, forgive them instead of harboring resentment. In this way, you will open the door to inner healing. The eighth thing to avoid when talking to others is constant comparison. The constant search for comparisons, Ray continued, can generate envy and dissatisfaction. Avoid this trap and instead focus on your personal growth. Don't feel inferior or threatened by the successes of others, and you will see that you too will find a way to achieve good results. As the day drew to a close and the disciples became increasingly involved in Ray's lessons, the master introduced the ninth topic, avoiding talking about one's weaknesses. Remember that negative words about your weaknesses, he said, can grow like weeds and infest your life. Treat your frailties with kindness, avoiding self-devaluation. When you speak publicly about your weaknesses or failures, you hurt yourself and cause bad actors to use that information to harm you. Your enemies expect nothing more, so keep silent about your failures. Talk about your personal challenges with a growth mindset rather than emphasizing the negative side of things. The 10th lesson on what not to talk about was about the past and the future. The past is a closed book, the future a blank sheet of paper, Rai warned. Avoid constantly talking about events that happened in the past, as well as what you would like to do in the future. Instead, focus on the present moment, because only in the present can you act to make your life something unique. After sharing these 10 topics, Ray wanted to greet his disciples with a question. Imagine your tongue as a sharp sword that can deeply wound yourself and others, or like a flower that, cultivated with love and attention, can release a sweet aroma into the air. Which of the two languages do you choose, the sharp sword or the flower? But in conclusion, what is the moral of this story? That our inner lives are shaped by the words we choose to say, and the words we choose not to say. If we want to create fertile ground for our spiritual growth, we must carefully choose the words we use. In this way, we can nourish our soul and live in peace.